Hey guys, how's it going? Happy Thursday. Well, this was another epic court day. Um, so we should probably get right into it. Let me say hi to everybody though. Hey, truth teller, I know you were in here way earlier, and I don't know if you're in here now. Um, I'll try to take it easy on Jim, but if you watch this on the replay or somebody messages you or whatever, let me know if you need anything. My email is in my about section. So if you need anything, let me know. Hey, Emily Flotia. Hey, Jessica Cat. Hey, Melissa. Hey, K-Braze. Hello, Shamida. Hey, Angry Mimi. How's everybody doing tonight? Vanessa. Hello. Anita, Karen, CB Cal. Christine G. That's me. How's it going? Lordy be. Well, my StreamYard's a glitching. Shows that I have 0 people watching, but I can clearly see that there are not 0 people because I can see the chat. Get it together, StreamYards. All right, so before we get started, here's a little reminder of what to do, and then we'll get started, okay?
And Kai, when you're on Jen Lou's channel, what do you do with the like button?
Smash, smash, smash! Yeah.
All right, so if you haven't already, please give your girl a thumbs up. It helps get me in the algorithm, helps my interaction, and helps you guys get your notifications if you have them set. So cool. All right. Hey, Recliner Detective, Amelia Sparkles, Ellie, Amanda Carroll. Good to see everybody. All right, so let's get right into it. Today started off rather swell because my friend Jim Griffin, y'all, let me just tell y'all, Jim, this is just from one human being to another, okay? If you are going to take the time to get up there and call out YouTube in a good way, because you have an opportunity to hear exactly what was said and whatnot, that's fine. That's a good thing. Just make sure that when you get the transcript, you read it before you make a whole ass announcement in front of God and everybody, because that was something. All right, so let's get over there to it. Let's see what had happened. Give me just 1 second because I wrote some timestamps down for us so I could be better prepared. Please hold. And I left it over there away from my desk. Please hold. Hey, Coolest Reviews. Good to see you. Also, Jim, you know what would really help you? If you came over here and watched the ward, I could tell you exactly what you need to do. I could help you, Jim. All right, hold on. I'll be right back. Hey, Jenny. Oh, I've learned a lot. Good to see you. My earbud thingies are like stuck around, like wrapped up around me. Ugh. I feel like I'm being I have some kind of binding spell on me. It's messing me up. Hey, Michelle K. Hey, Tony. Hey, Beyond Closed Doors. All right, let me get over there to this and get it for y'all. This StreamYard thing saying nobody's watching is really weirding me out. I don't know why. It's just weirding me out. All right, hold on. Hold on. It should be. I don't. Also, Law and Crime, I don't really care for the way that you guys are have your channel situated. It's not good. I don't care for it. It's hard to navigate. I have to look through things I don't want to look through to find what I actually want. Come on, get it together. Well, of course, I could have probably had it together if I would have pulled this up first and been prepared. Then you guys wouldn't have to spend every single freaking evening with me waiting for me to find what it is I'm supposed to be finding. So that's probably a little on me too. Okay, I'll take some accountability and responsibility. What the I know what to do. I know what to do. All right, I found it. I should have done this before. Should just keep it in my library. All right, hang on now. Let me see. All right. Let me scroll to where I want it. All right, here we go. Are y'all ready for this? Because this is some ridiculousness on a level that I can't even discuss. I can't even believe he did this. But it's funny to me because it's just funny. And then on top of it, what the judge says is funny. So we're going to watch that, and then we're going to get into all the things that happened today. Because I learned some things during this trial that I didn't know. Some things were easier for me to understand. And hey, MK, literally, it's been a whole minute. All right, I'm going to add this to the stream. Actually, you know what? Give me just one more second, okay? Just talk amongst yourselves for just a second. This glitch is driving me nuts. Hold on. Okay, well, that didn't fix it, so now I'm just going to have to learn to ignore it. All right, here we go. All right, let me add it to the stream. We'll be ready to go. All right, here we go.
Mr. Griffin? Before we bring the jury in, I would like to put on the record the basis of my objection to the redirect of Agent Owens regarding the roadside shooting, and the court opened the door to that based on my cross-examination. This is the first case I've had the benefit of being able to go back to YouTube and see exactly what was asked on direct and what was asked on cross. I have typed it out. It's very brief. On direct examination, Mr. Meathers asked Agent Owens question at some point in 2021 in the fall, did a financial
You typed it out? Okay.
investigation begin at Alec Murdaugh? His answer was yes, sir. Question, would it be fair to say that the investigations overlap with each other? Answer, it did. Question, would it be fair to say that the two investigations fed off each other? The answer is yes, they did. From the information I was learning from the financial investigation, it gave me additional people to consider and to look at Mr. Murdaugh as a reason why or why not. The next question, were the individuals in the finance investigation
5, 6, 7, 8.
that you also interviewed in this investigation? He said, yes, I did. And the question, did you learn information from the grand jury testimony? He says, yes, I did. Then the question, did you follow up on that information? He said, yes, I did. That was elicited on direct examination. My cross-examination, I began on this topic. You also testified in the fall of 2021, there started up a financial investigation. Yes. You said it fed off and overlapped with the murder investigation. Yes. You developed information that Alec was stealing money to support a drug addiction. Yes, that was reported. Question, you learned that Alex was paying up to $50,000 a week to buy drugs. Yes, that's what you learned, that Alex was buying from Curtis Eddie Smith. Yes.
And boom, there it is. You learned that Alice, a bind from Curtis Eddie Smith. Yes. His closed captions, bless it. There you go. Look at Judge Newman's face. He's like, man, did you type that up and you read it and you didn't catch your mistake? Oh my God. All right, here we go.
Eddie was buying from the Sand Hill drug gang. Yes. You learned that Eddie.
Where's that meme? I need that Morgan Freeman meme. It was in this moment. Griffin knew he fucked up. All right, here we go.
He owed the Sand Hill drug gang a lot of money. Yes, but they were not worried about getting their money because it was Murdaugh. Question: did you ever conduct a cell phone analysis of the Sand Hill drug dealer's cell phones to see if they were at Moselle on June the 8th? Answer: no, because in my experience, they use burner phones. Question: you never got DNA from them to cross-check against the unknown DNA on Maggie's fingernails? Answer: no. Question: you never put them in the investigative circle, did you? Answer: my understanding is that investigation is continuing and is being conducted by the DEA. And from that, Your Honor, there were no questions related to the roadside shooting, no questions related to whether Alec lied to the police in connection with the roadside shooting. It was all about him stealing money from clients to support his drug addiction, which is evidence that was already in the case. Your Honor, I sent the court via email earlier today the case of State v. Hayward, 426 SC 630, which is a 2019 case where the Supreme Court reversed Judge Young on an opening the door theory.
The same Supreme Court reversed the Court of Appeals.
Excuse me, the Supreme Court reversed the Court of, sure.
Oh my God. See, this is why, sorry, truth teller, I can't take it easy on Jim. This is why Jim be getting on my nerves, okay? Because the judge corrected him. Because that's the way the case law reads, right? And here he goes, starts to try to read it again, and then sure, which is condescending and rude as fuck, frankly. And I don't, oh, I'm past the 8 minutes. I'm good. I can cuss. I mean, oh, you're having an ice storm? Holy guacamole. Okay. I'm not sure, CB Cal, to be quite frank with you, because I'm going to have to look at that family tree. And I had to take a second away from Stephen Smith's case because the trial, everything is happening and all the things there, you can't even look away because every day there's a shenanigan. Like this business took, hey, rescue mom and Diane Marie, babe, I get it. I'm from Texas. My kids are still there and it is tornadoes. It's tornadoes. Well, really March is, but it's a little early, but yeah, I get it. It's scary. I'm thinking of you. Okay. And I'm thinking of the kiddos. I promise. Oh, thank you, Crime Sleuthin'. But see, this is why, look, you took your ass all the way over to the YouTubes, okay? And then you typed this up, which is ridiculous. You don't really need to type anything up, but okay, whatever. But you read it back, and you don't see how you opened the door to this line of questioning that we now are hearing today at the end of the day because of your not paying attention. What you attempted to do, don't play, Mr. Griffin. We all were there. We saw it. What you tried to do is come up with a alternate suspect. And when you introduced an actual name, i.e. Curtis Eddie Smith, that was you opening the door. Okay? And now we got to sit through another audio, two audios, one video, one audio of Alec Murdaugh braying like a donkey, one octave below only dogs can hear, and try to make sense out of, and we are going to get to that. I'm only going to cover a little bit of the whole, like the angles. First of all, let me just say, I have regrets. I wish I had paid better attention in geometry in high school. I really do. I wish that even though I passed first semester just fine, I failed second semester and had to take it in summer school. I really wish that I wasn't um, really good friends with the person who sat behind me, who was in charge of grading my papers, who didn't grade my papers. She just corrected them. I wish I had actually learned geometry, because maybe then I could be doing something like this, but I couldn't because, well, hey, Laura, thank you. So, yeah, that's where we're at. But I'm not going to cover like a whole bunch of what occurred today as far as that um, testimony, because LFT and Tia on Decipher did a really good job talking about that, and they've got some really good theories and stuff that makes a lot of sense, things that I've been thinking about what was going on that night. But I do want to cover it a little bit because it did happen. And well, maybe I want to know about Trajectory's coolest reviews. Hey, Gregory, he did the whole reenactment and figured out where the shooter had to be, where the victim had to be, based on geometry, because it's all angles. He had a protractor. He had all the things. And I'm over here, I don't know. I could just add it to my resume of things I know. Just be good to know. I wish I'd have paid attention. Whew. All right. We're going to talk about the courtroom yoga too, because of those reenactments. They were something else. Poor Harpootlian today with that dadgum measuring tape. Bless his heart. All right, here we go. Let's look at the dear Judge Newman. Everybody here at the ward loves you. We do.
Yes.
The was convicted. It went. The Supreme Court, the Court of Appeals affirmed, and the Supreme Court reversed the Court of Appeals. That's right. And vacated the conviction based upon the introduction of propensity evidence, 404 evidence on the theory of opening the door. And in that opinion, Justice Hearn is very specific to state that courts have to be very careful and very wary of thinly veiled attempts to show propensity by way of the open door doctrine, and that the testimony and response must be proportional and confined to the topics to which counsel had opened the door. And again, I go back, we did not open the door to any roadside shooting, any insurance fraud, anything with regard to Alec lying to the police. And so that was the basis. I just objected, so I want to put that in the record. Today, they intend to present a full panoply of evidence on the roadside shooting. And Your Honor, we would oppose that.
What do you mean a full panoply?
Well, they've asked to, that they're going, my understanding, they're putting up Agent Kelly to talk about his investigation of the roadside shooting. We got a request this morning for them to play the hospital videotape of Alec in the Savannah Hospital, which is over an hour. He's being interviewed by SLED agents, and he's meeting with a sketch artist to draw up a sketch of the roadside shooter. And that they plan to introduce that evidence. They plan to introduce, as we understand it, follow-up evidence of when Alec gets to detox in Atlanta, when he calls back with Mr. Harpootlian and I, and he gives a full statement.
Oh, I
about
love
the
this.
roadside
I
shooting
love Judge Newman.
and about how he had lied to them previously, how he saw
Is that
it.
the same video or
They're
two
two
different?
seconds. I mean, second is just an audio tape. But Your Honor, I just go back to State v. Hayward, where the court says testimony and response must be proportional and confined to the topics which counsel has opened the door.
You
And so
opened the door.
they intend to spend 3 hours of testimony here today, and it's not proportional, and it's not related to the topic for which the court, I believe, should find that. I don't think I opened any door, because I think the evidence was already in.
All right, let me tell you how, again, I didn't even study law. Okay. Like I didn't pass the bar exam or anything like that. Okay. But let me tell you what you did when you brought up a specific name. Okay. And you attempted to introduce this other person as a potential suspect, an alternate suspect other than the defendant. That is when you opened the door. You didn't have to say his name. And furthermore, because the jury, I think, if live chats from like Law and Crime and Court TV and even my chat are any indicators, I think that the average person is having a difficult time wrapping their head or their mind, not their head. Don't be wrapping your head around things, please. Wrapping their mind around the concept of Alec, the motive that Alec is doing that, did this allegedly because he was so in the hole. He was stealing from the law firm. He was stealing from his clients. It was all unraveling. He had the boat case, which was gonna, if they hadn't kept on digging, one way or another, the financial crimes are going to be exposed, whether it was Jeannie exposing it or the boat lawsuit exposing it. One way or another, it was going to be exposed. And people are having a difficult time understanding that how could he do what he did to his wife and to his son because he was having financial issues. Well, this is how Cousin Eddie's, not him specifically, but the roadside shooting ties it all together motive wise, because that's exactly what he did with the roadside shooting. He hired Curtis Eddie Smith to unalive him on the side of the road because he was worried that he had a self-harm clause in his life insurance policy, and he wanted to circumvent that by making it appear. It had two good reasons. It makes it appear as if it's a murder rather than a self-harm, which then the insurance pays out. Buster collects the life insurance policy, and he is dead and doesn't have to worry about anything. But more importantly, it leaves people with the, oh my gosh, it was a vigilante. They got that whole family is a target. And that's how it ties it together. So when you mentioned him by name, like you should know better, Mr. Griffin, than to call people out by their government names. If you had just left it at he was paying $50,000 a week for Oxy, and just, even if you talked about, I know he didn't say the Sugar Hill Gang, but that's whatever I don't, for whatever reason, that's the name that's coming to my mind, I don't know if y'all know who that is, but if you're close in my age, you should. Anyway, so he brings them up, right? And as alternative suspects, he should have just left it there. He didn't have to bring up Curtis Eddie Smith's whole ass government name. That's where he messed up. That's the problem. Sheesh. I've already explained this to you now twice, Mr. Griffin.
Case.
And stop coming to YouTube and looking at stuff and then reading it back and not recognizing what you did. That's
And
come to YouTube and get some advice. Come over here to this channel. You ain't got to comment. You don't, just give me a thumbs up and stop opening doors for your client. Look at Harpootlian. He's tired of your shit too, Jim.
correct. It wasn't something I brought up.
Yes, it was.
May it please court, Your Honor. To go back, obviously, we had this issue and we addressed it yesterday morning.
This time we're dealing with the issue of the courts, the exception or statement for the record that Mr. Griffin wanted to make concerning the court's ruling yesterday. We're not dealing with any anticipated testimony today at this time. I'm not ruling based on what
I remember
I've
that
already
case
ruled, but I'm
beyond closed
entertaining
doors.
his comments for the record regarding yesterday's ruling. So go ahead.
I think, Your Honor, if you listen, obviously, to the excerpts that Mr. Griffin just read, and you put that in the context of everything that had developed, starting with Marion Proctor, that the door is more than opened, and the state's intent in that regard is to full
And you know what? Even if it wasn't,
In that regard, we're talking about yesterday's ruling.
even if it wasn't,
Close the door on
if
that.
that
Do you have
wasn't
anything
his
else to say
intent,
about the court's ruling?
right?
No, other than the examination, the redirected examination clearly was.
The bottom line is, I think it paints a very clear picture for the jury that Richard, Alec, Xander, Murdaugh,
Concerning the court's
goes
ruling
above
yesterday
and
also
beyond, goes the extra mile,
State v.
and is
Hayward,
extra as fuck to
Mr.
swindle
Owens in
and
questioning,
hide
investigate
crimes,
Mr. Griffin in
etc. It paints a very clear picture of the
cross-examining
type of
investigator
person
Owen,
he is.
got into this circle of interest.
All right, hold on.
In this circle.
Oh no,
Then cross-examined
we're back to the
witness
circle, y'all.
regarding, did you consider Eddie Smith to be in the circle? Well, did you consider some unknown gang members, whoever they might be, to be in this circle? Did you know that Alex was spending $50,000 per week supporting a drug habit, presumably through Eddie Smith, and that he owed money, or he was indebted? So Mr. Griffin introduced the relationship between the defendant and Eddie Smith. The court conducted a pretrial, a hearing outside the presence of the jury, addressed the issue, made it clear that the roadside shooting was a bridge too far. Then the defense decided to build a road over that bridge, decided to just go right there as if they could dance through fire without getting burned, scarred, or anything. The door was open. This is not the same as the situation in State v. Hayward, where a co-defendant's, a cooperating co-defendant is being questioned about unrelated matters, totally unrelated to the case.
Okay, so I think the judge made his point there. I think we get it. You know, he said it just like it is. Hey, Amanda, at the end of the day, he told them it was going to be a bridge too far. And they did exactly, he's the one that opened the door by using Cousin Eddie as a potential alternate suspect, because he's the circle of trust and the circle of suspicion and the hokey pokey and all the things that happen. We were there. And that's what happens. He ruled, I think, I don't understand exactly what he's saying, to be quite honest with you, because we're going to get it. I think hey, Allie, we're going to get into that a little bit later. But now remember, I will say this. So they do have Detective Kelly on the stand at the end of the day today. And I mean, he was really only there because he was the investigator on the roadside situation case. And really the footage and the audio really speak for themselves. He didn't really need to do a whole lot of testifying, but I guess they had to have court had to be closed today at 4:30. Hold on, give me just a second. They had to stop court today at 4:30 for some reason. I forget what it was. I don't even know if I ever knew. But anyway, it doesn't matter. They had to stop early. And Harpootlian said that it was going to take a while for him to cross-examine Detective Kelly, which I thought was weird because Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin and Alec Murdaugh are on the phone with Detective Kelly. It's a whole, it was a group effort. It was back in the day, when it was a three-way, but everybody knew that everybody was on the line. Not like back in the day when your friend would call you call you and start talking crap about another friend, and you didn't know, and then get you to do it, and then the other friend was listening in. Yeah, not like that. Everybody was aware that everybody was on the phone, and that was a messed up call too. And it annoyed me beyond belief. Yeah, but I just don't remember what he said, that why that was. I just don't remember. Okay. So now we're going to get to the main event, which is the doctor, detective, chief. This guy is, I really enjoyed him. He knows, not only does he know his stuff, but he puts it in a way that is very, very easy for people to understand, people being me. And not only that, but I have to say this, although he does use exhibits and points to stuff, which I found very, very fascinating. I actually, in some of them, because there are some where they can't show the pictures because they're sealed, but I could actually picture what he was saying without needing a visual aid. And usually that's, I mean, I have a good imagination, but stuff like this is kind of complicated, and it's helpful if you can, you have some type of visual aid just so you can orient yourself with where things are. But with him, I didn't need it. He did a fantastic job, and he has a great personality too. So if I were like a critic and I was giving him a review, maybe I should do that on my other channel. Just start reviewing different stuff, like different shows and stuff, and maybe use the Capri Sun monkey. So instead of stars. So if I were going to give him a review, he would get 4 Capri Sun monkeys. Monkeys with the Capri Sun. Yeah, that's what he would get. I liked him. All right, here we go.
And that kind of thing. And also to give the path an idea of your interpretation of what happened.
And have you ever been asked to consult on death cases in jurisdictions throughout the state or even in other states?
Yes, sir, I have.
Describe that to the jury, please.
As a consultant, I work for
Now, y'all know that it is 9:30, and that means Nestor needs to go out. So I'm just going to step away. Let me get this right to, well, I'm just going to let it play from here because it's not too much, like a couple seconds, and then it'll go into testimony. But I'll be in the chat, so y'all better behave. All right, hold on.
To be frank and honest, sometimes law enforcement, sometimes it's defending law enforcement, just depending on what I believe is wrong and right. And I have participated with private attorneys in the civil process, doing both. And I've also been asked by colleagues and comrades across the country to review a piece of evidence if they may have needed a qualified examiner to technically or administratively review that piece of evidence or their findings.
Before I come back to the specific crime scene training and experience that you have, I just want to go back again to your education. You went to Clemson, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, and started a law enforcement career not long after that?
That is correct.
And what year did you graduate Clemson?
I was on a 5-year plan. I graduated in 1991, and I started as a reserve deputy. The records are a little shaky because back then you worked until they had a certification class, but best I can guess was somewhere around 92, 93.
So 91 Clemson?
Yes, sir.
I was 92 Carolina. All right. Then you went on to Troy University at some point later in your career?
I did, yes, sir. I attended Troy's satellite campus, which is in Sumter, an actual brick and mortar school. And the purpose of Troy being placed in Sumter is because of Shaw Air Force Base. A lot of our men and women who protect our country use their GI Bills to further their education at such campuses. And I had to travel 1 night a week and 2 days a week for approximately a year and a half to complete that, pass proficiency.
All right. That conference exam, is that a pretty tough exam?
It's the second toughest thing I've ever done. Yes, sir.
Is the pass rate pretty low on that thing first time?
It is very low. We probably had 30 people in our class, and I only know of 4 that passed the competency the first time.
Were you one of them?
Yes, sir.
And then you went on and got your doctorate. Is that right?
I did. Yes, sir.
And that was a Walden University program there?
It was. Yes, sir.
Did you have to do any residencies with that?
We'll stipulate to him as a qualified expert. If we can just go ahead and move on. Thank you.
All right. To explore the extent of his qualifications, that goes directly to the value of his opinion to the jury. I'll do it expeditiously, but I think we're entitled to do that.
Do you accept the stipulation or no?
I do accept the stipulation. Now, I would like to very quickly finish up the qualification process so that the jury understands that.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is so qualified. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right. So real quick, you did some residencies in your doctorate. Is that correct?
I did 4 residencies in Atlanta. Yes, sir.
And ultimately did dissertation and all that comes with getting your doctorate relevant to criminal justice and criminology. Is that correct?
I defended my prospectus and my dissertation. Yes, sir, successfully.
All right. Now let's get to the last thing I want to cover as far as your qualifications. But what specific areas of crime scene investigation and reconstruction have you had training experience and previous qualifications in?
Yes, sir. I have been certified internationally by the International Association for Identification as a crime scene technician. That's a 5-year deal. And then 5 years as a crime scene investigator, where you have to do practical and written examinations. And you have to have statistics in your background, a certain number of each item to even be able to take the test. And that encompasses all of the different aspects of crime scene investigation. My training also encompasses footwear and tire tread examination, bloodstain pattern analysis, crime scene reconstruction, fingerprint examination, and fabric impression, but I haven't done a lot of the fabric impression.
Have you ever been qualified in courts of record as an expert in crime scene examination and reconstruction?
Yes, sir, I have.
How many times?
Approximately 35, 36 times.
Have you ever been qualified as an expert in fingerprint examination?
I have, yes,
How
sir.
many times?
Maybe 20, 25. Sometimes, and let me explain why. Sometimes it's not individually. Sometimes you'll qualify for 2 or 3 of the different disciplines, and I didn't keep track of which time, was singular or which time was multiple qualifications.
All right. And then have you ever been qualified as an expert in footwear examination?
I have, sir, approximately 8 times.
And tire tread as well?
Yes, sir.
All right. I believe that's what I wanted to go through with your qualifications, which I believe you stipulate in those areas. Is that correct? All right, let's move on. Did you have an opportunity to review at the request of the state the crime scene here as it relates to Maggie and Paul?
I did, yes, sir.
Right. And just very quickly, what are some of the types of things that you reviewed as part of your process?
When I do a reconstruction, I look at the available evidence as I feel it's pertinent to help me answer questions. And the questions that or the things I wanted to accomplish from this reconstruction, you can determine sequence. You can determine movement. A lot of times you can determine the number of blows, or in the event of a hand-to-hand combat or a firearm was used, those kind of things. So I examined forensic reports that were issued by law enforcement laboratories. I also examined extensively photographs that were taken on the scene, measurements, that kind of thing. And I also responded to the scene. It was rather close, and I took my own measurements.
When you say responded to the scene, when did you first get involved in this guy?
The end of 2022, and I'm not talking about when the scene was actually going on. I went after the fact and did my own measurements.
All right. And when you were retained by the state in this case, were you told any particular goal, or were you told to just take a fresh look at it and offer your opinions?
I was told to look at all of the evidence and determine what I may be helpful on, and to use my own judgment objectively, independently, and come up with my own conclusions.
All right, let's talk about, if we can, and again, we're going to have to deal with some of, maybe not the images as much, but deal with some of the injuries that Maggie and Paul suffered, correct?
Yes, sir.
Let's, if you could, just remind the jury, what were the injuries that Paul suffered, please?
They were very, very severe firearms injuries. One was a shotgun wound to just a little anatomical left of the body. One was to the shoulder, and it proceeded into the jaw and ultimately into the head.
And was that the first injury or the second?
The first injury was the shotgun wound to the middle of the chest, and it was non-fatal,
Right.
at least not fatal immediately.
And then what about the second injury?
The second injury was immediate death.
And were you able, in reviewing crime scene evidence, to come to any conclusions as to the order in which Paul suffered those gunshot wounds from the shooter?
Yes, sir, I was.
All right, and please relate that to the jury.
My conclusion was that the first non-fatal wound to the midline of the body occurred as Paul was standing with his body canted in the middle of that dog food room, pointed slightly southwest, and the shot entered the midline of his chest, exited his underarm, entered his underarm on the actual arm, and exited the outside of his arm. And most of those 9 pellets proceeded through the back window of that dog food room.
Right. And then just real quick, you said 9 pellets. So explain that to the jury why you say 9 pellets.
That double-aught buckshot shot shell contains 9 pellets and I guess you describe it as a styrofoam packing to keep it tight so it doesn't shake. And when that cartridge is expelled out of the end of that barrel, the styrofoam packing dissipates or goes its own way, and those projectiles continue in the correct path.
Hold on for me real quick. I want to get a couple things marked. All right, I'm going to show you, can I have the element, please? I'm going to show you what's been marked as states 531, 532, and 533, and see if you recognize these particular images.
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, and tell the jury just generally what these are, please.
These are views of the floor of the feed room and a view from the entrance to the feed room. And
Okay, so now you've got your wrench, babe. If you would drop your link, I would greatly appreciate it. Y'all go give Decipher Podcast a sub. They had a great live late last night that I unfortunately missed due to there was a technical difficulty, and then I'm just conked out. I was tired, and I feel bad because I wanted to be there. But their live from earlier was great too. A lot of they do a really great job explaining and using not just the pictures that he puts up, but there's other pictures that they have that really help you get a good sense of the area and what's what and where things were. And this part to me was so interesting because it really put it, first of all, like we knew from the pathologist's testimony that it was brutal, right? But to understand really what happened and how it is possible for there to be a single person, a single shooter, even though there were two different guns. And I thought that he did a really excellent job putting it together in a way because he cannot come out and say who did the shooting, right? But what he was able to do is reenact what occurred, and by using science and geometry and make it understandable so that the jury can recognize that it is possible for it to be a single person. Now, whether or not they, hey Seth, whether or not the jury takes away from it that the two different firearms were in Alex's hands, I'm gonna have to pull a Kai. I can't call it. For me, I think it makes more sense given the totality of the evidence that it was him rather than somebody else. But you never, hey Kate, you never can tell what a jury is going to do. And Kate says, I do think he had help though. I thought it was interesting. He claimed he paid Curtis nothing to shoot him. Feel like Curtis would only agree to doing that to cover his own. Yeah, we're going to get into that. Hey, Shamaina. So yeah, let's watch just a little bit more of the direct, and then we're going to get to the cross-examination because that part to me was good. I couldn't quite, well, we'll get there.
and some digitally placed footprint eggs that I placed in there to show Paul's approximate position in that feed room at the time of the shooting.
Your Honor, this time I'd offer states 531, 532, and 533, I believe, without objection. Yes, Your Honor.
Very good.
All right, I'm going to put 531 up on the screen here. Make sure we can see it all right.
And normally I wouldn't do the full screen layout, but I really want to because it's kind of
All right.
hard.
All right, Dr. Kinsey,
split
talk a
screen.
little bit about Paul's positioning and his location when that first shot happened. And if you could tell the jury your conclusion as to where he was located when that shot was fired. And then if you want to step down, and if you could maybe point out what was added to this image to kind of reflect your conclusion in that regard.
Thank you.
And there's a dowel stick right behind you if you want to use that.
Okay, as you see here, those are the
They
digital
really
legs
do.
that I placed there showing Paul's approximate position as he was.
And you know what? I've learned a lot. I think that they say that because it's to elicit an emotional response from the jury, because they want the jury to forever keep it in their mind. You know, how could he do this? You know, how could a father who we just saw this Snapchat video and you know, he's laughing and joking and playing, and how could he do this? You know what I mean? I don't really care for that. Hey, Carolina Moon. I don't really like when people try to pull on my emotions like that, or what's the word? Emotionally manipulate me. I'm not a fan of emotional manipulation. It's annoying.
Standing when he had the first gunshot wound. Here along the floor, what you see are passive or 90-degree blood droplets. And when blood, you can tell a lot from the direction of blood by the way it strikes an object. Blood has a cohesive
Bless
factor.
his heart, Corky. He got
It's
his
viscous.
steps in
You probably heard
today.
that term before with the motor oil for your car. It's thicker than water. And the thing that causes that blood droplet to change shape is the friction and the direction and how much force was used. Well, a 90-degree drop just is exactly that. It's perpendicular to the ground. So these 90-degree drops right here tell me that Paul was standing there for a moment. Can't tell you how long, but those drops were running down from that wound on his arm, more than likely his arm, because his chest area had a shirt on it. It takes a little while for that blood to make it through the shirt, but it'll run down the outside of your arm.
Hold on.
And you can see the 90-degree.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Seth. That's so sweet of you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Wow. Wow. Thank you.
Droplets here, and then they actually lead to the door. You can follow the path to the door. He's not moving
That
very
was so
fast because
generous.
most of
Thank
them
you so
are
much.
almost perfectly circular or 90 degrees. Had he been moving real fast, you could see some directionality in him, a tail, because the tail always tells you the
April,
direction
good to
with
see
a
you.
blood drop. So I know he was moving slowly, and I know he was standing in the middle of this room for some time after the first shotgun wound.
All right. And approximately how far was Paul inside the feed room? Can you describe a little bit about the dimensions of the feed room and your conclusion as to how far within the room Paul was when he was struck by that first blast?
Good to
Yes,
see
sir.
you,
Well, the feed room is 10 foot deep by my own calculations and by looking at the other sketches. And where you see his feet here is just on the other side of the halfway point. So I went, I'm guessing because I have no way of running a tape measure because when I went there, everything was moved. But this door is 36 inches and it's approximately 1.5 feet, 2 foot past the door. So that's how I come up with that determination. And he's just on the other side of the midpoint of that 10-foot room.
Which is about how far from the doorway?
5 foot.
All right. And I'm going to show you what's been marked as 6534 and see if you recognize that.
I do. Yes, sir.
All right. And tell the jury what that is real quick.
That is a general view from outside the feed room that was taken at the time the crime scene was originally processed. And I added a digital enhanced arrow
Seth.
showing the reader or the
Just
viewer
kidding, you guys
the
don't have
direction
to.
of the shot path.
All right. This time I offer
I was incredibly
6534.
generous. Thank you so much.
All right. I'm going to put 534 up on the screen. And if you would, just show that arrow that you're talking about that's been added to this image.
Yes, sir. Right here.
All right. And then as well, just show generally where those blood spots are. It's not the best image in the world, but where those blood spots are that led to your conclusion about Paul's location within the feed room when the first blast struck him.
The placard hasn't been moved, although it's hard to see the droplets. And of course, I didn't add the legs to this, but just on the other side of that placard. And then you have
Oops. Okay, so Tony, those weren't actually, or recliner detective, sorry, those were not, those feet were added in after the fact. It was to get to what's the word? Orient the jury to be able to see why and how he arrived at that conclusion. So it just gives them an idea of where Paul was likely standing. And then that's how he goes on to explain about the drops of blood, the 90-degree drops of blood, so that it you know that, because the defense is going to talk about not now, but it's when they put their case on, they're going to have to get around the fact that there was no fleeing. And while the initial shot to Paul would have hurt, he would have felt pain. It was not actually life-threatening. It wasn't a fatal shot, and he could still move. But the fact that it was a slow move, and that there's no defensive wounds, and he didn't see the firearm and run, which the state is alleging, and I this does make sense to me, like common sense wise, that if you see somebody you don't know approaching you with a firearm, you're far more likely to be afraid. But if you see somebody that you do know, somebody that you've been hunting with, who you're used to seeing a firearm in their hands, you wouldn't immediately run. If I had to take a guess based on what this gentleman testifies to, I think for a split second, I think Paul might have thought it was an accident, that his dad accidentally shot him. That's what I think. I think it was just a quick thought, and that changed, and he changed his mind very quickly. But I do think his first thought was, holy shit, but he didn't think he was going to get shot at again. You know what I'm saying? All right. Just a little bit more of this, because it's real graphic, and I really want to get to the cross exam, because that's, interesting too.
Here, quantity of 90-degree blood droplets with a partial footwear impression in. And then you can follow the blood droplets to the door.
Going back to States 531, again, point out to the jury, if you would, the sort of the digitally added feet that you had added.
All right. What if Curtis was supposed to unalive Maggie and Paul and then graze Alec, but the plan got interrupted, and this was him finishing off the job? That's interesting. Interesting. Yes, like Crime Sleuthen said, prove you were here. I can be your alibi, but only if you leave your DNA on that like. Oh no, Elizabeth. Well, I'm glad you're here. Yeah, something's going on between StreamYard and YouTube. It says I have 0 people watching on StreamYard. It's weird. I don't know what's happening. I'm just glad you guys are all here.
All right. And if you could, if that's the feed room doorway, can you just sort of position me, in your opinion, how Paul was standing when that first blast happened?
That's the doorway coming in?
Yes.
About right here.
All right. And let me ask you this. In the evidence and available crime scene evidence that you've reviewed, in your expert opinion, is there any way that Paul's arms were raised when he suffered that first blast to the chest?
I see no possible way his arms were up when he suffered that first shotgun wound.
And can you explain the basis for your conclusion to the jury in that part?
Yes, sir, I can. The shot pellets real close because they stayed together. They went in as one, as a unit, and then they did what a shot pellet does. They separated once they struck the skin and made the entry. Run along inside his body cavity. Underarm. If his arms would have been up, he would have had no entry wounds on the bottom of his arm and then more exit wounds on the outside. He had over 20 entry and exit wounds, and he's only got 9 pellets. So the only way the math works out is if his arm was down.
Correct, K-Brace.
And additionally, the wad stopped and was under his arm. Had his arms been up, in my opinion, that wad would have went on and exited his body, because it's only plastic. It doesn't take as much resistance to stop that wad as it does a shot pellet. and the wad stopped. It was right. You could grab it with your fingers if you would have been medical personnel and needed to. It was right there.
All right. And let me ask you this. Do you have a lot of general experience with firearms?
I do. I'm a firearms instructor for handguns, shotguns.
Yeah, oh, here we go, Alec, with the crying and the wiping his face with the snot and ugh. All right, we're going to skip through because I want to get to the cross-examination. Hold on. Give a minute to get set up his displays. All right, here we go.
So do I call you doctor or deputy or chief or what?
I haven't been a deputy in about 25 years, Mr. Harper, but I'll answer whatever you call me, sir.
Never a dull moment in the low country. We are shady.
So, when did you start in law school?
Around 93.
Okay. And you were in Orangeburg?
Yes, sir.
No, back then I was
Okay. I want you to take note of what's happening here between the witness and the poop. All right. Just pay attention and we'll talk about it. As soon as it happens, we'll talk about it. Okay.
solicitor in the Fifth Circuit. I was the prosecutor there. Do you remember that?
I've testified for you a couple times, Mr. Harper.
I thought you looked familiar. So you actually were my witness a couple times.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I don't know if we're going to have much to speak today, but I'm going to try to understand a couple things. If that's okay with you.
Bye,
Absolutely.
Corgis.
So let's understand the wound to Paul, the two wounds to Paul. And as I understand it, you were saying that he was standing how far back when he got shot, struck at? For his bloody footprints to be there, those footprints had to be made after he had the shot in the chest, correct?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
And so how far back in the room were those footprints?
The footprints are approximately, because I have no way, once everything was pressure washed and cleaned out, but looking at the actual crime scene photographs and then taking my own measurements, the placard, the yellow placard that's in the photographs is approximately at 5 foot. And he was on the other side so he was occupying that 6 foot area.
And there were no scales in any
Nobody's
of those
going to
pictures,
come
were
for
there?
There were
you
not, no,
in
sir.
5,
Let me
6,
just talk about
7,
this
8.
generally before we get
Everybody
to
can
that.
have their opinion, babe.
You
know
teach a course on
that.
crime scene processing?
Yes, sir.
You teach a course on how one should photograph a crime scene.
Yes, I do.
And I'm going to try to oversimplify this. There's basically 2 or 3 things that you want on any crime scene photo. The first is a scale, correct?
Well, there's 3 types of photos. One of those includes a scale. Yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, obviously you don't have a scale. It's a long shot out, like from outside the feed room in. But for something like bloody footprints, you would want a scale.
I would. Yes, sir.
And you want multiple lighting sources so that it's well lit.
Well, if you operate the camera correctly, you have your light source. And that's why you do it from 90 degrees over perpendicular to the footprint, because you can hit all the angles and then choose the best exposure that takes those shadows out.
So if you do 90, do you recommend taking more than one shot?
Yes, sir. Typically.
I mean, at different perspectives of the same item?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you recommend multiple shots, including one, got to have 190 degree.
If for comparison evidence, you do. Yes, sir.
And in the sense of the shoes, the shoe prints you think you saw, they were definitely Paul's shoes. You did that comparison.
Just like with the tire tread, they share class characteristics with Paul's shoes.
And were
Yes,
those
sir.
shoes facing towards the front or the back of the feet?
When they were made, it appears they were going toward the door.
Right.
But it would be hard for me to tell you without some kind of mark on that pavement to be able to orient them.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Without a mark on the pavement or some type of landmark, it would be hard for me to orient them from the photograph.
Okay. And again, if you had a scale or multiple pictures of that one shot, straight down and multiple pictures, you could have done a little bit more in terms of that, could you not?
An examiner possibly could have, yes, sir.
Okay. And the trail of blood leads towards the front door, right?
It does.
And how long was that trail?
Well, if he was in the 6 foot and you got 4 past him, at least 5 foot from where he starts dripping blood, then he steps in it and then he makes his way to the door.
So you think he was a foot and a half inside the door when he got shot, the second shot?
Well, his feet were inside the door, but his shoulder and his head was slightly outside the door.
Leaning forward.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the first shot, as I understand it, hit his shoulder.
The second shot is the one that hit the
No,
shoulder.
no, no, I'm talking about, let's talk about,
Ask
Fatal.
the question
Yes, sir.
correctly
It hits
so
his
you
shoulder.
can understand.
Yes, sir.
so based on, now you met with Dr. Reamer, the pathologist,
I did.
and she showed you her photos. Y'all talk about her photos?
I offered to go over the photos with Dr. Reamer, and she told me that she had limited crime scene experience, and that I'd have to determine that she looked at the wounds and she makes her determinations, and that wasn't really her forte.
Okay, so, but she said shot in the shoulder. I'm talking about the fatal shot.
The path, yes, sir.
Into the neck, out the
Rock
top of the head.
Hill.
That is correct.
Okay, so,
Christy,
and how, you said you had some difficulty determining Paul's height.
which is where his
Well, the DMV
girlfriend's
record, the
family
printout
lives.
showed 5'6", and the autopsy information showed 5'9", and I know a young man like that will hit a growth spurt. That's not my area. So,
But would you consider Dr. Reamer's measurement probably more accurate than what he told the DMV?
or he could have grown since he registered with the DMV. Yes, sir.
So why wouldn't we just
What's the
use
future
5'9"?
looking like, Aries?
I mean, is that fair?
Well, but then he's got damage to the top of his head. So I asked myself, how could Dr. Reamer get it exactly right when the top portion of his head's gone? So I had to guesstimate, and I figured the best way to do it is split two.
And the two were, so you had what?
DMV showed 5'6" on the printout,
So you
and
wanna
Dr.
be
Reamer showed
watching
5'9". So I
according
figured
to
somewhere around
Alex's
5'7.5" to
comment.
5'8".
So 5.
And then you take the hair to the actual wound.
Right, I guess, so
Hey,
what,
Crystal,
where the wound
yeah.
occurs, the initial, I guess it's his shoulder.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, he
How
was
high was
on
that?
punishment, Crystal.
That was approximately 4'7".
4'7".
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just give me a second here, we're gonna do it. I hadn't touched a protractor in 50 years. I've done it twice this week. So
Look at you,
let's do,
Pooh.
if you step down here for
You're
just a
doing
minute,
all the
please.
things.
Oh, you walk around with one?
Yes, sir.
Really sad. Really, really sad. So why don't you take this for me and I'm gonna hold it. I'll hold the bottom. You put a dot on here at 4, wherever the shoulder, the height of the shoulder. Okay, I'm gonna take it straight. Onto the family. Okay, and we can, okay. Let me just get it up here to 4. Let me do this. If you can do this one. 4 foot, 6. 4 foot. We're saying 4'7"?
Yes, sir.
You don't have a lock in. There's no.
What do you mean, do you know how to lock
So that's
it?
4'7", right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go straight up.
Coach, you don't know how to lock a measuring tape? Even I know how to lock a measuring tape. What you're doing
And that was
is
then the
right.
height of the window. You
That's the height, approximate height of the shoulder, depending on how far he's dipping.
think it's lower?
Could be, yes, sir. Like I said, when you got a wound to that side, I would expect him to be favoring that shoulder.
Okay, so what's your opinion of how, I mean, you're the professional, I'm just holding.
Well, looking at the defects on this side of the door,
Yeah.
and it's several of them there, even though they've been pressure washed, if I run a string back in the area of 4'7", somewhere in the middle, gave me a
Oh,
135-degree angle,
Who
that's
in the
give or take 5 or
protractor
6 degrees.
from
And that's what Dr. Reamer said in her report, 135 degrees.
I don't know if she said that before, sir. Yes.
I'll do that. Thanks. Give me 2 seconds. And I'll find her.
But that's not absolute. Like I said, a lot of variables could change that.
Well, now this is a good question. So I don't know how that would work. So when it would be Buster's grandfather in this situation, right? Alec's dad. When he passed away, Alec got money and it was put into a trust. But I don't, and I'm sure Buster got an inheritance too. But I don't know if Paul and Maggie were included I'm sure I can't imagine that Paul wouldn't be included in his grandfather's will, but I'm not exactly sure how that worked because because if it works like I think it would work, which would be to the next of kin, then the next living kin, then that would be Alex. Alec would be the next his Paul's next of kin. So I don't know. I don't think that I know that Buster's been brought up a lot, but I just have not been I haven't seen anything that connects him to this at all. All right, here we go. Where's that part? Do y'all know which part I'm talking about where he says he was like the second choice or something? I think it must be after that. Hey AJ. Good to see you.
Make sure it's out the way. There we go. So,
Is there a new Ant-Man out? Aries? Excuse me.
well, while I'm looking for this, was there
Oh,
any
this
evidence
is about
of
to be a whole dumpster fire. Just one.
stippling, soot, powder, burn, anything? Soot the same thing as powder burn?
Soot is not brought up, yes, sir.
Okay.
And I don't
Around
know
it.
what this
Wipe off.
awkward
The powder
Greek
on the
version
stippling
is
doesn't need to be
going
wiped
on
off.
here.
It's actually
Law and
technical.
crime.
And that
We
would
ain't
indicate
seeing
pretty close
shit
shot.
this way. I just want to say
And
that.
you would agree, Dr. Reamer said there was no evidence of any of that, any stippling, anything that indicates a close-in shot.
That is accurate.
And she testified, I know we saw her, did you see her testify?
A little bit of it. Okay.
She testified that the muzzle of the gun, the weapon, the shotgun, would have had to have been at least 3 feet away, perhaps 4, but at least 3 feet away. Is that consistent with your experience?
I don't know if that's consistent with my experience. I'm not trying to disagree with the pathologist, but I don't see how the angle would work out unless it was a pretty short shotgun. I don't see that angle working out 3 feet away. It maybe have been within 3 foot.
Well, how far away was it? There was no, I mean, at what point?
Well, at the angle, the bullet defects would have been here at 76 inches.
Right.
So you've got quite a difference there. If I could get that dowel. You want to swap places with me?
Yeah, I'm trying to find that 135 degree comment by her, but,
To make that axis,
yeah.
at
I mean,
3
no,
foot,
this-
we're here.
We can't see nothing.
At 2 foot, we're
I
here.
don't know
So
what
I believe it would be more in line
is
with 2
happening
foot, but
here.
I'm not contradicting.
I can't see
pathologist.
nothing. Can y'all see something?
I know it's in here. Give me 2 seconds. I thought I had it. Come on. Give me 1 more second here.
He is. And he will not, no matter how much the poot tries to get him to say something
Well,
that's contradictory to his, if he can't find it, if it doesn't make sense, if it goes against the
So,
findings, he will not concede, and he
assume
does it in such
That you said, and you relied on Dr.
great way.
Reamer's 135 degree shot. Let's follow that down.
Now, Ms. Harpootlian, I reviewed her stuff, but I went and measured my own angle on that door now. I didn't rely on her angle.
Well, but she actually, you're going based on where those pellets were.
Yes, sir.
And
Yeah, I
she was
don't
going
know
on
whether-
measurements on the shoulder.
Law
Yes,
and
sir.
crime.
And she's actually
Now
looking at the
listen,
wound.
I'm
Yes, sir.
And she
enjoying
would
the
have
split
maybe a
screen,
more
but not
accurate,
that one that you just
angle,
did. That
because
was
she knows,
terrible.
she
Don't
sees
do that
what the wound
again.
is.
She knows the angle to him,
Right.
but she can't relate that to the defect at the scene.
But do you think it's, I mean, 135 degrees is basically a 45 degree angle, correct?
Not quite, but yes, sir, close. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So it's 45 degrees off of that dot.
I did my measurement from a little bit lower on the door frame. I took my protractor and placed it on the door frame, inside the door frame also.
So you don't think it's that tall, you think it's down?
Well, that's where his shoulder's at, but the angle of the gun, depending on the length of the barrel,
Right.
it would have to be here because it's not a contact wound. So it would
Right.
have to be down a little bit, but the angle doesn't change, just the distance changes.
Right, right. So, sorry, standing between you. So, but if you come off of this 45 degrees, for the sake of argument,
Okay, for the sake of argument.
okay.
Here we
That
go.
would show you the angle of whatever hit his shoulder.
As
Correct.
long as the angle stays the same, yes, sir.
Okay. So the angle.
I got it on 135, by the way.
But 135 would be, shouldn't it be 45 degrees off of straight up and down? So don't you have to take it over this way?
Well, you've got 90 in the middle. It depends
That
on
is
where
a-
your axis is.
Hey,
You've
Jessica,
got 90 in the
welcome
middle.
back, babe.
This is 180.
Jessica,
All the way around is 360.
Yeah,
So
K
here
braids.
we've got 135
No,
off the
Poot is
way.
not good with
that
geometry,
way.
and yes,
You make
K
it go this
braids.
way.
There's some
I don't quite understand.
I want the line
I
not
just
going this
wanna
way.
get-
I want to be able to draw it out this way.
through this a little bit more because.
And you go above it.
Okay, would you do me a favor? And
Hey, Natalie.
can I have that long ruler,
Isn't
please?
it funny? We didn't actually learn anything from this exercise. It was an exercise in futility, if you ask me. But,
And let's take it.
well, it's like they're having their own damn
I'll
conversation
hold it.
out here, you know.
That.
But it
We'll
is
just
a
put
little.
that.
For me, it's a little levity, and
Okay.
then we're gonna get
And
to
so,
the Cousin Eddie situation.
And again, it could be somewhat lower if you turn,
Yes, sir.
but.
And that would change the angle. That's why I said approximately 135. It could change it a little bit.
Come up.
A few degrees. As well, if you figure if this is 135, and if he's 2 inches lower, that would, take probably 5 degrees off.
The
so that would
only
be
thing
130,
I know for
maybe.
sure,
If you
Seth, that
sit it up
he
there,
was
we'll measure
leaving
it. I
to
can take it for
Buster
sure.
was the life insurance. Because I think everything else,
So, okay, let me. what do you want me to
Asset
do?
You hold the
wise,
protractor up.
other than
There
his
you go.
inheritance,
So we
because
gotta
that
go
was put
this
into
way.
a
Well,
trust.
Okay.
But everything else, asset wise,
There you go. If you want
after
to go
they
that way.
settled debts,
Which way
et
you want
cetera,
to
et
go?
cetera,
Flip
there
it,
wouldn't have been
flip it.
anything
There
left
we go.
for Buster.
That's why you're the.
Only the life insurance.
I got a feeling you're fooling with me, Mr. Harpoon.
You got that feeling?
I got that feeling.
Okay. So that's 130.
Yes, sir.
What do you want to make it?
Well, I'm not measuring it this way. I mean, you tell me what you want me to make it, because I measured it this angle.
Yeah, but this is just the flip side of that. Remember how you talked about the negative?
All right, put it back.
Okay. Which way do you want it? This? That?
There you
Okay,
go.
that's 135. What do you want? Oh, wow. There you go.
All right, so if it was, let's say
Let's
this
say-
end was down a little bit, that would make it what? Now you're on the bottom half now, so that
It's like
changes
the
it. Now we're at
teacher and
40.
the student.
Yeah, it was
when you were in
45.
class
Right,
back
now it's
in the
40,
day.
Right.
Hold on, I'm
See-
turn this down. 'Cause I don't want to
Yeah.
yell and everything.
All
right.
So if you.
You know what it feels like? It feels like, when the teacher calls a kid up to the board
So-
in class and they're working on a math problem, but the kid is struggling. So the
Wanna draw
teacher's
that in?
trying to explain it to the child and they're doing it like step by step. And you can't even like understand what's going on because obviously they're having a personal conversation.
Those are basically, what you're saying is those are the two possible paths. and
No,
maybe
there
one in
wouldn't
the
have been anything
Okay.
after the
Now,
debt and everything was
And you
satisfied.
believe that the shooter was how far away?
There would be
from that
nothing
guy?
left in Alex
I think 3 foot
estate.
is a stretch
So the
without having some
only
damage to the
thing
door frame.
that
Right,
Buster
because that
stood
shot-
to
them shot
gain
pellets
would have
immediately when you hit the
been
barrel of that gun.
the life
At 3
insurance
foot,
policy, which I
that
think
shot
was like
pellets
12
spread
million.
1 inch. There's no damage to the outside of that door frame.
Why would there be?
Why would there be what?
It is spread how far, 1 inch?
If Paul's shoulder is barely reaching that door frame, and that's what the blood evidence tells you.
Right.
If you are further back, then shot pellets are going to do what they're supposed to do. They're going to open up, and there's no shot damage to that door frame.
Okay.
So
This is a nightmare. I can't watch this anymore. Let's get to Cousin Eddie.
You recognize it?
Oh God,
Yes,
wait, I
okay.
forgot. This is the best
The
part.
Benelli shotgun, is that right?
yes, sir.
Here we go.
Okay, so I prefer to come close. I have some.
Look at the pooch shuffling around with a dadgum shotgun in his hand in court. No gloves.
Okay, if you take that shotgun and, unlike these boys back here, I don't mind if you point it in my direction.
So
Okay. So if you take that,
I can't with this. Okay, so the family trust. Well, Tinsley sued the family trust. Now I don't know how absolutely you fall asleep listening if you want to, Allie. Absolutely. Now, I don't know what the status of this, the beach lawsuit ended up being, or if it's still going on. But I know at one point the Murdaugh Family Trust was listed as a defendant, but clearly, and I don't know if the Murdaugh family, I don't think that's the same thing either. Like, I think the Murdaugh Family Trust is one thing, and then Alex's inheritance that he got from his dad is a separate trust, because clearly he can't manage his finances, right? And so they put it into a trust for him, and he has to ask like permission, to be able to spend money, and it has to be approved, and he's essentially using his inheritance to pay for this defense. So I'm sure he's feeling quite satisfied with Mr. Griffin right about now. Hold on.
Of that gun and follow the line down.
Let me rewind it. All right, he's getting the gloves.
And it's a Benelli shotgun, is that right? Yes, sir, it is. Okay, so I prefer to gloves.
Okay, tell me, y'all, this is not an Elmer Fudd moment where the Poot is holding onto the gun just a second ago with the barrel of the gun pointing to the audience and the handle of the gun pointing at the chief, doctor, professor.
Okay, if you take that shotgun, and unlike these boys back here, I don't mind if you point it in my direction. Okay?
No, he didn't.
So if you take that,
He
the
just
muzzle
checked it.
of that gun and follow the line down, please. And let me turn this just a little bit.
It's just funny to me. All right.
Okay. Follow
So
this.
now we're going to skip a little forward because I really get to this Cousin Eddie situation, and I want to get to the actual.
Knows more than he's saying.
Oh wait,
Of their expert.
that this lady right here on the
There's
panel.
no clarity in that line of crime. I'm not aware Dick Harpootlian was going with it.
She was talking about what happened with Griffin yesterday, and it sounded exactly like me if I would have been on that panel, because she goes, y'all done messed up, and it was hilarious. Okay, we'll be right back. We had technical difficulties. Hold on.
Proctor's testimony was left thinking.
Still technical difficulties.
Well, I mean, yeah, I can't drive.
That's a 911 call. This is him in the ambulance. Still
Yes, when Mr.
standing like a whole donkey brain.
All right, I'm going to show you.
Oh, Alec getting real nervous now. Just whip them glasses right on off, sir. Angry Mimi wins. First episode, Poot and the Protractor. Second episode, I can't even make it out.
All right, I'm going to show you what's
And the
marked
pew
as stage
pew.
551 and see if you recognize this image.
Yes, I do. These are transaction receipts and deposit and withdrawal receipts for Curtis Edward Smith's Enterprise Bank account.
And ultimately, did the law enforcement look at some of this financial information and trace that back to the defendant? This was recovered in Eddie Smith's house, correct?
Yes, those documents were recovered in Mr. Smith's house. At this point, Alex Murdaugh had been fired from his law firm for stealing from clients and from the firm. We were aware of that information. It was told to us that Mr. Murdaugh had a prescription drug addiction that we were aware of. At this point, we were aware of that Mr. Murdaugh had reached out to Mr. Smith from the hospital. So when we found, like I said, Mr. Smith lives in a modest house, has a modest vehicle. When we're
As
seeing
soon as
several
it
$100,000
comes, as soon as I can, I will.
um,
Crime sleuth, and I don't have
deposits
any
and
enough
financial records
material
from Mr.
right
Smith's
now.
Enterprise Bank, we obtained a search warrant. Through the execution of that search warrant, the funds were tied back to checks written by Mr. Murdaugh.
And did those funds continue up until the time of the murders in Moselle?
Yes, they did.
Did they continue afterwards?
Well, we
They
love
did.
you too,
Your Honor,
Angry
this time I'd
Mimi,
offer
because
stage
that was
551
good.
without additional objection.
Without additional objections, Your Honor.
It's admitted.
The Poot and the Pew pew. Oh my. What do we got going on
Did
here?
the investigation obtain any information from Blanca Simpson about any communication she had with the defendant that day, September 4th, 2021?
Yes, Ms. Simpson made contact with Mr. Murdaugh, where Mr. Murdaugh had requested her send him copies of their insurance cards.
Was that prior
that's
to
what that
the
picture
incident
is.
occurring on the side of the road?
Yes. When prior to the incident, Mr. Murdaugh attempted to meet with a few individuals, Mr. Wilson being one of them, and he made contact with Ms. Simpson via telephone.
Good night, Crime Sleuthin'. I know I took my Oli sleep gummies because it usually takes a little bit.
In light
for
of
me.
the information that had been uncovered
I guess
about
they hit a
Eddie
little
Smith and
quicker
the
than
connection, the
normal
financial
tonight,
connection
and I'm
between Eddie
already
Smith
feeling a
and
little
Alec
sleepy.
Murdaugh, did the investigation seek to re-interview Alec Murdaugh?
We did. I reached out to Mr. Harpootlian on the day of September 7th, 2021.
All right. And over the course of the next few days,
You know what I may do, y'all? I may just call it tonight because I'm kind of sleepy. And no, I'm going to keep going. I am kind of sleepy though. But I really want to pay attention to this last part of it because this phone call between Harpootlian, Griffin, Murdaugh, and Agent Kelly up here. And the reason why is because there's like a lot of stuff that stands out to it. Evidentiarily wise, I don't even think that's a word. Evidence wise, but there's a little humor in it too. And hey, Amanda Meatfoot, I was just about to end it, and I'm tired, you guys. So I think what I'm going to do tomorrow night is instead of coming live at 9, I'm going to come live at 8. And then that way I can cover this. And then because I think that'll be better. Because this will be all, we'll get to see both sides. We'll get to see at once. We'll get to see all of, or, the direct exam. And then we'll get to see tomorrow what happens as far as the cross-examination. But let me give you a spoiler alert, okay? For somebody who is buying $50,000 a week in Oxy, which is what he said he was doing, okay? He never had a slip show, which I find incredible and ridiculous. But the checks too, that's who leaves the paper trail, that's number 2. But they get to this point in the phone call where Alec just starts ratting everybody out. Just everybody. So, I mean, and I think I'll be in like a better spot. Like I won't be tired tomorrow. And, yeah. All right. Good night, you guys. Thank you, everybody, for being here. If you haven't done so already, please give your girl a thumbs up. It helps get me into the algorithm and helps you guys get the notifications because YouTube says, oh, people like this. Let me be prompt with the thumbs up. All right. Good night, you guys. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. We got one more day and then it's the weekend and we can party hardy and stay up late and just go Murdaugh manic. All right. Good night, you guys. Bye.